Well, hey, Jason, for me,
Either he wants to say something or eat something, one of the two.
Take the opportunity to put our musical interests.
Acting, dancing, and now singing a Grammy winner.
Lord help
After those movies, and particularly Night Shift and Gung Ho.
Really? Never knew that.
Welcome back, and we got a great guest here today for us, and that's Cassie Christensen, a current board member of Kenosha Community Media. Cassie, nice to see you today.
Hi, nice. Thanks for having me, Jason.
And Cassie, maybe we should start off. What's your role in Kenosha Community Media?
I've been a board member for Kenosha Community Media for about 2 years now. I'm currently in the office position of secretary, and I'm very happy to be working with Kenosha Community Media because they've helped us with the Literacy Council so much, and I love to be able to give back to community media and also to the community in Kenosha.
Well, then let's talk about the Kenosha Literacy Council. For those who don't know about the Kenosha Literacy Council, what is it?
Well, the Literacy Council is a nonprofit. We're an educational nonprofit that offers services to adults in the community. So we have a wide range of people coming to our program. We have people who are coming to go back to school for their GEDs. That's about 20% of our student population. And then the other 80% of our population are people from all over the world. We have people from about 40 different countries who are coming to learn English. So they're coming to us so that they can better provide for their families and learn English to be independent in the community. And so we do that with volunteers. Most of our classes are taught with trained volunteers, and we serve all of Kenosha County. So not just people in the city of Kenosha, but anybody in Kenosha County can come to our program.
Don't you have civic classes as well?
We do, yeah. So that's actually one of the classes that I teach alongside with another KLC staff member. We offer that program 3 times a week, and it runs a typical school year. And we actually look at the civics program as a way for our students to learn English while they're learning how to navigate through our community. So while we do include a unit that focuses on government, they're also learning how to navigate the healthcare system, to be able to talk to their doctors and their child's doctors, to be able to find medicine and make informed healthcare decisions. They learn how to navigate the school system because it's different here than maybe in their countries. And alongside that, using our awesome library system in Kenosha. So they're doing that as well. Understanding how to communicate at the bank and use the services at the bank, and also finding quality housing. So understanding their rights if they're renting as a tenant, what are their rights? And then also if students are looking to buy a house, what that process looks like, and they all kind of connect to each other. So that class is our civics class, which is different than our citizenship class. Our citizenship class would be a class that students are taking to go through the naturalization process. So they're established here and they want to officially become citizens and go through that process. So 2 different classes.
Well, we want to keep this Literacy Council going. How can the community help the Literacy Council through? Do you need volunteers, tutors? Let's hear all about it.
Yeah, well, we are looking forward to holding a ceremony of some sort. We're not quite sure how it's going to play out yet, but normally we take a moment to recognize learners who've been successful or have completed programs and have a ceremony for them. And this year we're planning to do something similar, and we're asking if people want to sponsor a student who's going to be recognized, and they can donate through our website, which is kenoshalit.org. And then also creating awareness. So we're always working to create awareness about adult literacy and how important it is. People could volunteer with us. Right? If you want to get active and volunteer with the Literacy Council, you can always contact me. My name obviously is Cassie, and that's the beginning of my email. So it's Cassie, Cassie, at kenoshalit.org. You could visit our website and contact us through our website, kenoshalit.org, or you could give us a phone call, 262-654-7323. And we have multiple training sessions throughout the year. It takes about 14 hours to get trained, so it's not too much. And that's a mix between in-face, person-to-person training, and then also online training. So it's really easy to become a volunteer, and you don't have to have a teaching background at all. We like to have a diverse volunteer group so that they can help our learners learn about many different things.
Well, Cassie, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Kenosha Literacy Council does an excellent resource in the community. Look at their website and their social media and get involved. So, Cassie, thank you so much for telling us today.
Thank you, Jason.
Welcome back to Just Talking, and we have a great guest here today, and that is June Angela, who is an excellent singer, performer, and actress. And June, nice to see you today.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Jim.
And then, well, I know you got a great singing voice. Where did it all start? If you could bring it back as far as, did you go take classes into singing, or where did that all get started?
I guess I've been singing since I was a kid. I studied vocal lessons after a while. I was performing since age 5, and yes, it's a long time ago. And I made my operatic debut at the age of 10 with the New York City Opera, and I hold the record as the youngest soloist soprano in the history of the opera company there, which is terrific. But I started, to take formal singing lessons, and grew out from there, and then just was fortunate enough to have great singing teachers. And they tell me, though, that when I was born that I had a great set of lungs, because when I was crying, I guess I cried aloud and had good projection for my voice.
Well, everybody remembers you in the Electric Company, and what a great show that is. Let's hear, how did that all get started? How did you get involved in the Electric Company?
That was actually something, they were very open-minded at that time. When they were auditioning for children, they requested black and white children, because that's all that was usually seen on television. And my agent at that time said, can you just give her an audition? Just, let her perform for you. And they said, okay. And I went in, and I guess they liked what they saw. And the rest is history. I got to be on it from the pilot to the very end. I think it was 760 shows, 6 seasons that we actually finished.
Jelly belly, nice and fat. Jelly belly, where it's at. You shake your middle from left to right, and you do the jelly belly with all your might.
And maybe for those who haven't seen the show, you were in the Short Circus. And maybe for those who don't know what that is, what was the Short Circus?
Short Circus was a rock band of 5 children who sang the various educational songs, like an E on the end, which taught how to have a short vowel like plan, and you add an E and it becomes plain. An E on the end, and that will depend whether it has an E on the end. If this word is plan, then this word is plain. And Mel Mounds, who was played by Morgan Freeman, was the DJ. And he used to announce these new singles that they'd have from the Short Circus. And so we were the musical group that used to sing the songs. And then as the time wore on and the seasons went on, then we got to do more skits and do regular plain acting as well without singing.
Where are you going? I'm taking my case to a higher court.
And it seemed, how was like the rehearsal, since you were, 10 or at a very young age, was it shot in the summertime? Was it all year round? What was sort of like the rehearsal schedule?
It was all year round, 6 months a year, and I go to school during the day, and then I think it was about 3 o'clock, we would learn songs, and we'd go to the recording studio and actually record the songs, and we'd learn the choreography, and then a couple of days later, we'd go to the studio and shoot the actual songs. So it was quite a busy schedule when you stop and look back now. At that time, I was a kid, I had great time. We did 7 songs in a week, and for the pilot, and it was, terrific. We just did it. And now I look back and go, wow, that was a lot of stuff we were doing throughout the week, and then going to school at the same time. But I had a blast. It was great.
Sweet, sweet way. Na 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 na. Sweet, sweet sway. Na 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 na.
You worked with some great people there as well. I think Irene Cara was in the Short Circus, and I think the girl from Willy Wonka, and then the adult actors, Bill Cosby and Morgan Freeman. How was it working with the cast of Electric Company?
Yes. Oh, it was great. Rita Moreno was wonderful. She actually, when I grew up, I played Tuptim Tim and the King and I with Yul Brynner on Broadway. And she, in the movie, did The King and I with Yul Brynner. She played the same role. So when she came to see the show, of course, she knew Yul Brynner, and she came backstage and she said, Junie, you better watch out. I still remember the lines in that role. So she was terrific. She was, really great. And to think I grew up working with this woman who was Rita Moreno, and then years later playing the role that she did in the film with Yul Brynner on Broadway, it was great. So she was wonderful. Throughout the years, I've kept in touch with her. And Morgan Freeman, my gosh, I think, wow, that's Morgan Freeman. And we just, he was Morgan. And we work in the studio, all the time doing skits. And I look back and I see some of the early skits that I did with him. And one of them, I think I was 11. And he played this counter ice cream man. And I was asking for a banana split. And he had this banana, and he actually split the banana in half. And you saw my face going, what? And so things like that. And I had a wonderful time. And it was great to be able to work with these wonderful people. And I learned a lot from working with them that helped me throughout my career as I grew older.
We are the kids known as Whimper and Whine. Whimper and Whine. Whimper and Whine. That's what we do when we sit down to dine. Whimper and whine, whine, whine.
I think that was just astounding when I see the show now, is that there's so much in there. First, they're learning, which was the main thing for the audience to learn from the language. And then, but also you got the singing, the dancing, the skits. And then also I want to talk about is the visual effects in that. There's so many aspects to it. How was it working with the visual effects at that time?
That was very wonderful. And I think something that was so iconic to the show was called a silhouette blend. And you probably would remember that it was all in shadow and silhouette, and the two faces would be like this, and one would go, like, chow, and you'd see the syllable, the CH would come out of the person's mouth, and then the other part of the word would come out of the other person's mouth, and everybody remembers that. And so they had green screens back in those days. Who knew what they were? But they were quite advanced. We had Spider-Man crawling on the walls, and we were able to be elves and candy cakes and whatnot. So they had a lot of those things that people take for granted now, but years ago, they were state of the art.
You've all heard the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now you're going to hear about Snow White's brother, Snowball and the Six Dwarves.
You were on some cover of the magazines of the Electric Company of Rocking It Out in the Band, and there's one where Doug Henning got you suspended on the top of the Twin Towers. Was that picture doctored, or did that really happen?
It was a real undoctored picture. And it was on top of the Twin Towers in New York City, the highest levitation in the world. Yes, that is a true picture.
So did they say, don't report to Studio 1A or report to the top of the tower?
Yes, right. That was, yes, that was definitely not in the studio. That was in the air and under the blue sky.
How was that experience when he
I
did
was
that?
so honored. They asked me to be the one to be levitated by him, and it's the Guinness Book of Records, the highest levitation in the world. I don't think you'd find anybody breaking that record relatively soon.
Who was the guy who caught my eye? Who was the guy who made me cry? Who was the guy who said goodbye? Who was? You was.
When they did Sesame Street on Ice, it seems like they, with the band, The Short Circus, did they ever talk about having you guys tour or something like that at the time?
You know, we did a couple of dates. We went to the Airy Crown Theater in Chicago.
Really?
Played Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center. We didn't do a lot, but we did. And the crowds came, the children were there with their parents because it was an educational show and it was done so in such a fun way that nobody thought that they were being taught all these lessons that were so wonderful to be taught and important about reading. It was just fun to go see the show and watch the Short Circus sing the songs and dance, and then they'd sing along, and it was a great thing. I remember being in the subway in New York, because we shot in New York, and kids in the subway would come up to me and go, "The Electric Company," or "Hey, you guys." So it was quite popular, and as I said, just going to Chicago and being in New York doing the concerts was great. But we didn't do more touring than that. That was about it.
The show is done. We hate to run. We're sorry, but that's all.
So when the show came to a close and they did the reruns, I believe you were on another TV show with Pat Morita. It was a spinoff of Welcome Back, Kotter, Mr. T and Tina. So how was it working with Pat Morita on that show?
He was terrific. He was absolutely wonderful. He played my dad. It was a show called Mr. T and Tina. It was the very first Asian American sitcom ever, and I'm proud to be a part of that as well. Now that people say, "Gosh, June, you've been a part of history and stuff and first," so I go, "Okay, that's fine." So I'm happy to be part of that. Pat Morita was wonderful, and then years later, he played my dad again. There was a TV movie called Blind Alleys, and Cloris Leachman played my mother, and he played my father, and this was a drama. And it was written by David Henry Wong, and it was in 1985, I believe. So he was my dad again, and then we had always stayed in touch, and years later I saw him, and he always said, "They're my first on-screen daughter. You're my daughter. You're my daughter." And he was terrific, really great guy.
Well, not only on screen, but you are also on stage and on Broadway, I believe. So let's talk about the stage career. Now, I believe you're in the musical of Shogun. Let's talk about that.
Yes, Shogun was based on the book by James Clavell. They had made that into a miniseries, and I played Lady Mariko, who was the leading lady. And I got to meet James Clavell and talk to him, and that was a wonderful experience for me on Broadway. And I got nominated for a Tony Award Best Leading Actress in a Musical and Drama Desk Award nominee as well for that show. And again, looking back and thinking I've worked with these people, in that particular show I learned how to fight like a samurai. So they had real Japanese fight masters come in and teach me how to do that. And the rehearsals were so tremendous. You'd have to kind of bend your knees and be in this kind of position to learn how to walk. And you'd spend a week doing these type of rehearsals just to start the basics. And I remember waking up one day and couldn't walk because my knees were in such a position for the whole week that time. But it was a great experience for me doing Shogun. And before that, I got to do King and I, which was another Broadway show. And in that one, I met Richard Rogers himself, and he used to come to the theater every Wednesday and be backstage watching the show from the wings. And I'd say, hello, Mr. Rogers. And he'd say, hello, June, nice to see you. And then now looking back, I think, my goodness, that was the real Richard Rogers. He wrote The King and I. He wrote Oklahoma and Carousel and South Pacific and all these wonderful musicals. And so I was very honored to have been a part of that as well and meet these icons.
You touched on The King and I. How was it working with Yul Brynner?
He was the king, and I had a wonderful time working with him, but he definitely was the king. I worked with him for 3.5 years, got to go to London, play the London Palladium for 1.5 years, which was quite an honor. Usually they only let people come in for 6 months, but the British Equity, I guess, kind of made an exception and let me stay. And I never missed a show, wound up doing 1,300 performances, 3.5 years. Although Yul Brynner never missed a show either, so I guess he was also an inspiration. And as I said, he was wonderful. He treated me really great. But he was the king, that's for sure.
Maybe for those who don't know the theater community, what do they mean by Broadway, off-Broadway, touring company? Is it the same show or different? Maybe if you can explain a little bit about that.
Different. Broadway is a place called Broadway in New York City, and it usually has the biggest theaters. And it's a marvelous tourist attraction. It's uptown, and they have quite a wonderful variety of shows. They have plays and musicals. And off-Broadway is a level of the same professionalism, but it's underneath there. The houses are smaller, and it's not necessarily on Broadway. And I've worked with a lot of off-Broadway shows as well. And then they have regional theater, which is theater that's performed around the country in different regions, which are particular to the place, like Los Angeles or Philadelphia or Chicago, or these different regions of the country. And then touring companies are companies that go from place to place to place so that various people around the country can get to see the show if they can't come to New York to see the original production.
Is there one you like one over the other? Is it stage, performing, TV? Is there a preference for you?
I love it all. I love it all. Every medium has its own different special things. Theater has live audiences, so you can connect to them immediately. You hear the laughs when you're telling the jokes. You can feel the drama and the tension in the air, or you can hear sniffles if it's something sad. I did a play in Los Angeles with Danny Glover. It was a 2-character play called Johann. And that was for me, it was a wonderful experience working with him to start with. And the character went from everything emotionally that you can imagine. So to hear the people reacting to the laughs and then at the end crying and bonding with the characters was tremendous. And then television, you don't have the live audience, but you can reach so many different people at the same time. And working with cameras, there's always take 2, as opposed to doing stage, which, one shot, that's it. And you get to go to different locations when you're doing television as well. So I love them both. And recording is great too, because you're singing or doing voice stuff, audiobooks. I do a lot of audiobooks these days as well, which I enjoy. Children's books, as a matter of fact, I love doing those the most. And although, no, adult books are pretty good too. But children's books are kind of dear to me because of Electric Company. And films as well, location things or studio. They all have their wonderful individual great things.
I believe you're in that recent TV show, Fresh Off the Boat, and that up-and-coming actress, that Constance Wu, she is really, really good. So when you work with these actresses, do you spot some things like that? Like, gee, this person's,
Yes, I play the family psychic, Madame Jing, and so that was another fun role, to be playing this, psychic person who can foresee things into the future. And And who knew at that time that Constance Wu was going to be this major star in the movie Crazy Rich Asians? So I'm very happy for her. And it opened the door for lots of different audiences. And I'm so happy that it wasn't just an Asian American or an Asian film. It appealed to everybody, the wide audiences around the world, because it was a human story. It was two people who were having this wonderful, funny, but touching relationship. And everybody enjoyed watching these two people, not necessarily of, oh, this person, was Asian or whatever. It didn't matter. They were just human people, and it was a great film. And I'm happy for her. She went on to do another film with Jennifer Lopez and stuff. So who knew at that time? But you never know. So I'm happy. It's great.
And for you, is there any upcoming projects we should know about? I know right now everything's kind of on the lull right now, but I don't know if there's anything maybe you can bring up.
On hold. There were things that I was supposed to be doing that now they're on hold, and I don't know whether they will be revived. Who knows? It's quite an interesting, not very good time for anybody these days, but especially for my particular business, because now all the rules have to be rewritten with COVID going on, because now you can't be in close proximity with people, and it's difficult. So the only thing I'm fortunate enough that I can do is voiceover things, which I can do alone, and you don't have to be in a crowded set. You can do it in the comfort of a secluded space, so you won't be it won't be contagious or anything. So I'm doing audiobooks, which I love to do, and as I said, it's something that it's easy to do now, and something that can be done, because who knows when the rest of the industry will be able to open again, especially theater. My goodness, with the projection of the voice and the audience there live, it's going to be a little tough. But as I said, there's so much going on in the world, so everybody has to change everything, and hopefully everything in a good way.
Let's talk about, do you have a website that people can find more information about you? And let's hear all about that.
Yeah, it's juneangela.com. That is my website. If you liked Electric Company things, there's a whole page of Electric Company stuff with pictures and things throughout the years and stuff. I can admit I'm not that great at updating it very frequently, but you can see things on there that are interesting to see throughout my career. And then you can also write as well to me through the website.
I think you also recorded a CD of songs. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. It was a CD of my own songs based from songs that I had sung throughout my career. Some were from Electric Company, some were from a show called Sayonara, a couple were from Shogun. Then I did a couple of jazz songs and did different twists to them. And yes, that was my solo CD, and it came out. And there are pictures in there as well from various costumes and shows that I had done.
Well, June, I just want to thank you so much for talking with us today. You're just an excellent actress, singer, performer, and again, the Electric Company still remains on top for me. Just a phenomenal show. So we'll check out your website. We'll check out all your work and any upcoming projects that come along. And thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you.